um ice cream just off the top of my head. Let's say we had a grocery list, right? Apples, scissors, I don't know, bread, uh, celery, eggs. Like this, we have a few things in a grocery list, right? What I would get you to do is to mentally place them around a room, or better yet, actually, everybody could relate to this. Let's place them around a car. Okay. So you're sitting in a car, you've got a steering wheel in your hand, and you have ice cream melting on that steering wheel. There's no plot, no characters, no nothing. You're just putting it into a situation where your brain goes, hey, it's not supposed to be there and it's not supposed to be doing that. And that wakes up your brain and you pay more attention. That's really the point, is its uniqueness. You want to trigger your brain to go, that's not supposed to happen. That's unnatural. That's that we don't want that to happen. So it wakes up. Right. And then you just move on, to the right of the steering wheel, you've got like your control panel and everything. Imagine somebody like threw a bunch of apples at that control panel and busted it up, right? And you got apples like embedded in there, right? Somebody stuck a pair of scissors right into the glove compartment, or there's scissors bursting out of the glove compartment, right? And bread, you tried to slice bread using the window. The window went up and sliced a whole loaf of bread in half, right? And maybe in the chair beside you, you've got a whole bunch of celery sticks sitting there. Now pay attention to this. Is really cool. What was on the steering wheel?
The ice cream.
Ice cream. That's right. And what do we throw at the console here?
Apples.
Apples. That's right. And what was coming out of the glove compartment?
Scissors.
Yeah, I had to think of the word glove compartment more than scissors. Yeah. And what were you bisecting there with the window?
The bread.
And what was sitting on the chair?
The celery.
That's right. And you can keep on going. But so like that's not a story with a plot though.
Hmm.
That is a series. The best way to think of it is a series of misshapen images. A series of imagery. And it's not just images. You want to put sounds in there and all your senses, but it has to be sensory information that doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
That pops out of the system and your brain goes, wait, what's going on? This technique owes itself to evolution, actually. So I actually argue about this in my book, that I believe that the memory technique is I call it the tiger in the jungle. And if you think back, yeah, 250,000 years ago, something like that, right? Hunter gatherers, right? We have roughly the same brain that we did back then. But what did we do most of the time? We traveled through the earth, and we tried to find food, and we tried to avoid predators. So if you're looking at a whole scene and you see a tree and you see a rock and you see a stream and you see a little squirrel and you see another rock and you see a tiger and you see another tree and you see, by the time you get to the third one, the tiger has eaten you, right? So the point is, our brains through evolution have evolved to pay attention to what's different, pay attention to what stands out and what's weird, right? So that ice cream melting on the steering wheel is our modern version of, I looked at a whole scene and I saw the tail of a tiger and my brain woke up, right? Because the brains that didn't wake up got eaten. Okay. So it's a survival mechanism. We're tricking our brain into using that survival mechanism, but we live in the modern world. There are no tigers anymore, right? We got to pay the bills and we have other stresses, right? So what we have to do is we have to be aware of how our brain thinks, and then we have to use that on purpose. We have to use conscious techniques to use it on purpose. I have a theory about brain training that I think it's not to make a big deal out of it, but I think brain training could save the world. And here's my argument. Okay, follow me here. I am not exaggerating at all. See, we as human beings, most of our modern ailments, where everything from Alzheimer's, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, of course, all the diseases, but also modern ailments like inflation, like stress around relationships, like all these different things. Most of them can be traced back to have to do with the fact that we are traditional cavemen and women, right? We are hunter gatherers, yet we're suddenly wake up and we're thrust into this modern world that is not natural for us. Hunter gatherers, they do very intense hunts for short periods of time, and then they rest for hours. And now we're put in a cubicle for 8 hours a day. No wonder our brains don't remember anything, can't get anything done, right? There's only a small percentage of people who seem to be very well adapted to the modern world, and most people suck at it. That's the truth.
Mhm.
You know, that same part of your brain that makes you afraid of the tiger that could come into the village, that's the same part of your brain that gets afraid of not paying the rent at the end of the month. But you can't do anything about the rent at the end of the month, right? So you just get more and more stressed. That cortisol builds up in your system and you get all those ailments I talked about, right? And I'm not even going to get into like, you know, our diet and everything else. So what do we do about it though? We know that we're natural beings living an unnatural life, but we're here now. We don't want to go back into the forest, right? We want to have flushing toilets and iPhones. So what do we do about it? The only thing that can adapt quickly is the brain. We can take all the strategies that our brain used to survive in the jungle and we can adapt them and change them slightly. We can hack them, in other words. That's why I call them brain hacks to help us live in the modern world.
So if you had to use chimneys as a metaphor for success, how is success like chimneys?
Well, you gotta, if you want to get to the top of one, then you got to go through a lot of dirt and grime and be willing to get filthy and, you know, plug your nose sometimes. And you also got to squeeze out all the fat and everything that makes you too big to fit through if you're going to get to the top of the chimney in life. And when you get there, you're going to be tired, you're going to be exhausted, you're going to be filthy, but you'll be at the top and you'll be able to have the most beautiful view.
Awesome. So that's
Yeah.
how success is like chimneys.